Hi everyone, it's me again, Sonal Dave, your award-winning Celebrant Toastmaster and public speaking expert. And yes, I'm still really excited. It's been a week now since I launched my journals. You can see them in the back. One for adults, one for children, but it's all about giving adults and children with a neurodiverse condition the opportunity to say, to write, to doodle, to colour in so that it helps them one day at a time. And that includes both the good days and the not so good days. And I just want to take a moment to do a shout out to all of you who've bought the journals already. It's just so lovely to see that these journals are helping adults and children, and that people are feeling that they just want to support me. And for that, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to you all. Now, I'm really excited today as I've got a lovely young lady who's going to be joining me, and I'm going to be just having a little bit of a chit and wag. I've got my cup of tea ready in my V&B mug, and I think you're going to enjoy this interview. So, a round of applause and a little bit of a drum roll, and it's my pleasure to bring Chintal Kakaya onto the screen. Hey, Chintal, how are you?
Hey Sono, I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I've just noticed a little bit of a drop in the temperature, which means that certain things start to flare up. But
Yeah,
cups of tea and wrapping up warm are my way to keep going, as they say.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, I've got my jumpers on. See, it's all back to the keep yourself warm and socks, definitely. It's
Oh,
always a bit cold.
100%. No more going around without socks anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
so Chintal, for those who might be watching now, so this is out on LinkedIn, YouTube, and my Facebook business page. So anyone who's watching now, and for those who may be watching later, take a little moment to tell us who you are and what you do.
Oh, okay. So, as you introduced me, my name's Chintal Kakaya. I am a intuitive and holistic energy healer, coach, and occupational therapist, a clinical occupational therapist. I've got 20 plus years background working as a clinical occupational therapist within the National Health Service and Health and Social Care, and recently taken the leap of faith to doing it all as an independent OT now. So yeah, because there's so much more to offer as an energy healer and coach and a therapist and everything that I do under my wing. My biggest mission is to help women to heal on what I say a multi-dimensional level so that they can lead a very healthy, happy, and aligned life. So, a lot of the energy healing work and the coaching and the therapy work that I do is very much around based on healing for well being. But we actually got deeper. So, we get down to the root cause of where things have stemmed from. And then we start releasing them from the root cause level. So that would be removing negative energy blocks, subconscious beliefs, and unresolved emotions. And we all know emotions are energy in motion. And especially for women, there's a lot of emotions deeply embedded from lots of things. Some could be, cultural, ancestral, generational, historical, everything that women have kind of gone through. And what I found all throughout the journey, working even as a clinical occupational therapist, that there is beyond physical ailments. So when we are not in balance and we are not in alignment within ourselves, when I speak about that in terms of mind, body, soul, and our chakras and stuff, when we're not in alignment, we start to experience some of this discomfort and dis-ease and illnesses and stuff. And I started to notice there's so much more to certain physical illnesses and stuff people are presenting with. And my journey started basically based on my own personal journey of having had chronic illnesses and navigating through them and struggling with things like chronic fatigue and anxiety and overwhelm and depression, and that cycle that it was a struggle to break free from. So my journey of healing really started from looking after my own well-being in a different way. having on a daily basis taking like concoction of like medications and stuff, you understand that actually there has to be something else. So yeah, that's kind of like what led me onto this journey back in 2017, and now I'm supporting other women from all walks of life and helping them, really to heal. That's basically my main mission.
Wow. And that mission's not like, micro. This mission is macro.
Yeah.
And whilst you're working with different women, what do you think are the sort of the key challenges that are there for women to kind of deal with to be a better version of themselves, but in a more healing, relaxed, acceptance way?
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because these are been the conversations I've been having with many. I think the biggest thing is the fear. Fear is the biggest challenge. The fear of the unknown, the fear of uncertainty, the fear of what's coming up for them. And as humans, we're so ingrained as to we only take a step forward if we know what the result's going to be or the outcome's going to be. And if we don't know the unknown, you should never walk that path. And I feel that is the biggest fear. I had that fear in me before when I initially began this journey. So I totally can relate to it. So now when I work with these women, I feel it. And being a feeler, I feel the energy is quite a lot. And it feels like that's like one of the biggest blocks that they already hold onto them, is the fear of the unknown, fear of not knowing, the fear of judgment, the fear of um, losing people around them. So through the healing and stuff, the reason why we heal is to really become whole again. It's about reconnecting with who we truly are. And it's about unraveling everything that we have been made to believe who we are, and actually getting into. So through this journey of healing, I always say these words with ease and grace, is kind of like helping them to overcome some of these challenges and overcome some of these fears that are really holding them back.
It's quite interesting you say that, because I get a lot of women who come and say, "Oh, how come you're so confident? And how
Oh,
come we're always seeing you doing this, doing this, doing that, doing the rest of it?" And yeah, I am confident and I don't really have that fear. I'm like, just, well, this is about just getting it out there. It doesn't have to be super duper perfect, but it's getting it out there because my mission is to help.
well,
I physically can't go out and serve people in the way that some people can,
mm,
but my mission to help happens through the workshops, the online courses, the one-to-one sessions, now the journal, you
yeah,
and it's kind of like almost that journey of acceptance is
yeah,
real. It's not just a, hey, let's just look at self acceptance. It's a real journey. How do you look? How tall are you? How short are you? How fat are you? Do your eyes at inset, outset? What does your mouth do? All those things, to me, I remember thinking they were quite superficial, but actually, for some people, they're real deep issues. So when I go out there and I say, it's quite funny because when I say to people, I'm actually 4'9", and they go, no way. And I'm like, yeah, I am. But people have this image of somebody who's kind of 5'6", really tall, and out there. And I'm like, no, I'm 4'9", just tiny, tiny 4'9",
full of power. That's
yeah. Who is it? Yeah, it's that kind of, it's about your inner confidence, isn't it?
yeah,
And if you can get your inner confidence right, then that fear almost slowly dissipates. And, don't get me wrong, as you know, we've had conversations. My health is not the bestest in the world. And I live, both physical and hidden disabilities daily and chronic pain daily. But it's almost like being in a place where you're not going to let that become the forefront of everything. And actually, you're going to put things in place so that you can do the things that you enjoy. And I think getting them over that kind of almost over the fence of that
barrier,
fear,
yeah,
which is what you do, is so powerful, and more people should kind of get into your space and say, get me out of this fear zone, because it's the fear zone that's really going to hold them back from following their passion.
100%. And I do see that quite a lot, it's very common. I mean, I'll just give you an example. I don't just work with women like in their 30s or 40s. I'm actually working with women in their 60s who are really willing to go through that journey of healing because they've not been able to step into what they truly want to do because of things that have been holding them back, because of certain emotions that they have felt that they're not able to express freely because of what society would say or judgment or anything. And how, and it's true that I always say, if you approach me, I work on your inner world. I look at what's going on internally, because once we start working on our internal environment, everything externally starts to fall into place. And what I want to also touch on is what you said about acceptance. Absolutely, and I totally am. I understand about hidden disabilities. And if anybody knows, like things like chronic anemia, I've had it since childhood. And that can really, I mean, prior to my journey of healing, I was having treatment in hospital 2 to 3 times a year for transfusion because iron levels just kept dropping. And that's a hidden disability, because when you're at work, people are like, but you're fine. They don't look at is everything that goes on behind, the brain fog, the loss of your memory, the tiredness, the fatigue, everything that goes on. But it's knowing that actually, you know what, I am where I am right now. Where would I like to be is different, but what am I going to do to help myself to get myself out of this kind of same cycle? And acceptance is massive. It's such a big key word, because when we accept, it's already that initial step of your journey of healing.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting. I find you and I, the yin and yang. You're
Yeah.
the internal and I'm the external. As you were talking, I was like, wow, this just feels very yin yang. So I know a little bit about your life and your family and your journey and the challenges along the way. But it would be lovely to hear, in your words, the journey that you've had in the experience of neurodiversity.
Wow, yes. So I have a son. I've got 2 children. I've got a son, and that's what I'm going to be speaking about. So my son, Nishil, he's 15 now. It was when he was around 18 months old, I started to really pick up on him presenting with some like autistic behavior traits. Obviously, my background as an occupational therapist and my very strong intuition, it was very apparent that there was something not quite right, and he wasn't speaking very much. Only I could really understand him. And from that time onwards, obviously, I went through the hoops and everything to get him assessed and stuff. He got diagnosed at the age, he was 5 years old. So actually 10 years ago, he got diagnosed with ADHD, autism, developmental coordination delay, and mild sensory hearing impairment. Now, what that meant was obviously things had to change, like quite a lot. One of the biggest things, and as you may know, and you do know, is one of the things I've always loved doing is entertaining with friends and family when it comes to food. So every weekend I'd have loads of people around my house. Every weekend was always booked, whether it's friends or family. But what I noticed was that was really affecting my son. He would get really distressed. He would get really upset. He would have a meltdown. That's when I also started to realize that these things, that my life is going to be changing. But instead of feeling like all the things I'm going to be losing, I started to focus on how are we going to kind of navigate through this so that he's comfortable, because he's my son at the end of the day. And that obviously, people around us would either understand. And one of the biggest challenges at that time I faced, I think around that time, is now there's a lot more openness around things like autism and stuff. 10 years ago, it wasn't that, open around it, especially from a South Asian cultural point of view.
Mm.
you take them out, and if he has a meltdown, you'll be like, oh, look how naughty he is, or look at him, he's not trained very well and stuff. And you're always listening to all of those things. But myself and my husband, we made a decision at that point that actually, he's our child. Now, if that means that we cannot attend a big event or a function like a wedding or anything, then we won't do that right now. And if people get offended by it or they get upset with us, then actually it's the acceptance of it's okay. Because for me, my priority was my child. So, some of the challenges, it was the challenges of trying to understand him, trying to understand, eating habits were really, really, and you can imagine as a mom, you can easily get really overwhelmed. What am I going to feed them? They're not eating and stuff. And obviously, as he started to get older and older, you every day you've got to take it as it comes.
Mm.
And this is the acceptance of the unknown as well. You don't know, one day, morning to afternoon to evening is different as well. And some of the changes that were, the challenges were also about how are other people going to accept us as a family unit? How are our, family is going to understand everything as well. It was all around education. It was all around knowledge. And I felt that all I could do was to educate people. And if people could not comprehend or understand, then actually that wasn't my issue. One of the things we started to do with him, because for a few years we really cut back on going to any kind of big events because it would really affect him. It would upset him. So what we started to do was get him into a routine or a coping mechanism of how he could be in a space without having a meltdown. And we achieved that we had a tablet for him, iPad for him, which had his speech language therapy, like apps and stuff like that, and headphones. We went from actually attending an event with say just immediate family to a massive wedding event, which had 500 people, where he managed the whole event. He was in his zone with his iPad, with his earphones, and doing what he was, completely oblivious to what was going on around him. Now, for me, that was a massive achievement. And I remember there was about 3 or 4 ladies ahead who just kept looking, say, look at how you could see all the negative comments coming through. Yeah. Look at the bad training. Look at this. And I was like, I just had to accept that was their perception, because I know what we've done to get him to this level. To even come out the house was a massive step.
Well, I remember Nishil coming to my workshop, and I remember speaking to you saying, "Is there anything we need to put in place?" And you gave me a bit of guidance. But he took part, and he was sitting there at the front, and he was answering questions. And when it was the group exercises, he was engaged in the group. And only because you had told me did I know, but I didn't share it with anyone else. I just let him get on with his thing. And whenever he didn't answer, he didn't understand anything, he would just ask and just say, "Oh, could you help clarify that bit?" And we did. We clarified it, and then he got on. So I totally kind of understand what you're saying. It's about finding mechanisms that are going to not only help and support, but allow them to feel confident that they've got something that they can do. I've got an interesting question for you, Chintal, and it's about your other child. So how do you manage? Because, of course, for Nishil, you've got to give that extra time and support and help. So how do you manage with the second child so that she doesn't feel, like, "Oh, well, I'm not getting any attention," and getting left out? It must be quite difficult. How do you manage that?
It is a challenge, and I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, I do it 110% perfect. What is perfect, right? That was one of the biggest stresses that I was actually facing, was how do I ensure that my daughter doesn't feel like just because of easy? Because there are a couple of times, especially when she was a bit younger, she's 9 now, so understands a bit more, where she'd be like, oh, but you give him time. But then there were times where, because she was born premature and had her own challenges, she did get a lot of our time as well. So then I went through a phase where he was like, hang on, she's getting all the attention and I'm not. And you've just got to, the best way I feel it is go with the flow. And it's again educating both of them in a way that they understand. Like my daughter is, I can give her a command that is about 6 or 7 steps and she'll go and do it. Nishil is maximum three-step command. I have to constantly, we as a family constantly have to reevaluate how we're saying things or how we're putting it across to them. We try and make sure as much equality as possible. It's not like one gets to do everything the other one doesn't, or the other, and yeah, it is a challenge, especially when right now he's at the age where we're dealing with every day. I'm like, okay, so what am I going to deal with today? Is it the autism? Is it the ADHD? Or is it the teenage hormones?
Of course, yeah.
Right. And even with a 9-year-old, with a girl comes different challenges from school. Okay, so what is today going to be like? But it's more about what I find that's helped a lot is getting them to write down what their feelings are. Because especially with Nishil, he struggles to express. He's like that fizzy Coke bottle. He kind of everything just goes in, and then it's like psh, gone. You're like, whoa, what happened? We've done tremendous amount of work with him around regulating your emotions and zones of regulation and everything. But with him, you do it once, next time he'll have a flip out, you have to do it again. He struggles to carry that over. So although you talk about as soon as something like this is triggering you, how do you get from, that yellow zone back into the green zone before it gets into the red zone? He understands it, but he doesn't have the ability to carry that over and remember that just before. So what I find is getting them to express themselves openly, and for him, writing it helps a lot, even if it's just 1 or 2 words or 3 words, just so he's expressing himself. So when it comes to managing both, it is a bit of a seesaw juggling act, but we manage around it. And she's understanding, he's understanding, and sometimes they both clash. You can imagine,
Yeah.
because they both don't understand each other.
And isn't this life though? This is life, right?
Yeah,
Even if you're in a family where you've got 4 children, and all the children are different, so it's about just balancing, managing, and I think you've just said it so right, managing one day at a time. Not thinking about, oh, what might happen on Friday. It's about, right, we're on Tuesday, so what might happen today, or what's in their calendar today.
yeah,
And over time, you might yourself as parents sort of think, oh, well, that's happening today, so that didn't work well last week. Let's see how
mm,
it goes today. So there is a lot of that you have to go through. It's often,
definitely.
when parents will come to me and say, well, I don't really understand this whole parenting thing. And I'm like, neither do I, because I have 2 dogs, you know,
Yes.
um, but dealing with 2 dogs on a daily basis that has, the challenges that come with that. Likewise with parenting, I don't think there is a one-on-one parenting book that is, you've got to just take each day as it comes, but make sure that you're educated, make sure that you understand, make sure that you keep on top of any new research that might come out. And
Mm,
as we all know, there's so much research happening, on so many different topics. Just being aware about it as well. And
mm,
I applaud you and respect in terms of how when I've seen your 2 children or met them, or recently your holiday photos, I was like, look at them go. It was
yeah,
just so lovely to just to see that, and having seen your children grow from being, very young children to who they are today.
mm,
Congratulations and well done. And
mm.
today might be a good day, but tomorrow might not. But you just take each
Exactly.
day, right?
100%. And you know what you said, you touched on it as well, like in terms of knowing what works, what doesn't, like, even going on holiday. So yeah, we do go to the same place, but there is big reason behind it. Nishil's so familiar with it that actually it's a full on relaxation for us, because he's aware of what to expect, what not to expect, the travel. Whereas, we, even if we're planning on a different place now, we have to go through everything with him. so that he is aware. But we know if we just book something and go without his awareness, we know it's not going to be a relaxing holiday. It's knowing about what their likes and dislikes are, what triggers and what affects them. But it's also allowing them to say, it's kind of like, it's having that balance between, okay, also need to step out into a little bit of that real world, because you've got to explore and experience. And this is something we've always done, that actually. So over lockdown, he become like with many other children, he became very, very conscious about even going out the house. It was fear, constant fear. He wouldn't allow us to keep our windows open, doors open. It was hot, and and we had to really work on him to kind of get him out of that. To say, actually, you know what, you're safe, your body's safe, everything out there is safe. And you are what you're dealing with. Sometimes you don't even think that actually you're going to be dealing with this specific situation until it comes up and you're like, and this is why I always feel, and this has been a big thing for me, is why I've worked on myself so much more. Because when I've worked on myself, I'm able to keep myself in control in order to support them in the way they need support. So like,
Yeah, that really makes sense, Chintal, because if you were kind of a bit of all over here and there, and that would
throw him off even
you can
more.
you can imagine Nishal would kind of look at that and go, oh, okay, don't
Normal.
understand, don't know,
Yes.
is that normal? What do I do? So yeah, I can see where as a parent you've got to be really balanced yourself, so that you're in a supportive place yourself and an acceptance place yourself.
Yeah.
With that, you can confidently go and help manage, guide Nishal. But if you weren't in that place, can you imagine? Wow, that would be like a bit of a volcano exploding constantly. So yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, because I did have a few questions that came through about, well, it's hard. And yeah, it is hard. And they were like, but I sometimes struggle with my other child or children. So it's useful how you shared today that there can be, the spending more time with each child in a different way and at different times of the week, the month, the year. And as they get older, things will change, especially because you've got a boy and a girl. So their own challenges are going to be
Yeah.
different, especially in the teenage world, as we all know.
Yes.
Good
Definitely.
luck. Good luck.
Thanks.
You
And I got the
mentioned
dog
about
in the mix as well.
Oh, good luck with that. So you mentioned about writing, so I'm going
Yeah.
to bring my journals in
Yes.
here.
Yes.
So the journals that I've created have been very much around, you know, a safe space to whether it's to so there's the my day section, so whether it's good days, not so good days, where they can write, color, doodle, um, and again using the colors, if you've mentioned earlier, whether it's they might color or doodle in the yellow or the green or the red are also indications of what might be happening on those days. And then there's the mandalas for them to color, doodle. And one parent was saying to me that her child actually writes the family names in there. So she'll
Oh,
write her name,
yeah.
surname, daddy's name, mummy's name. And you can use the mandala for however you choose to. And then there's like inspirational quotes going through it. So from your experience, do you feel that journaling is a really good thing to do for both adults and children?
100%. 100%. Like I said, when I started my journey back in 2017, I've still got my books, my journal books from then, and I reflect back on them. And I think it's coming out of your mind. I mean, we end up storing so much in our mind, and you can imagine the reason why people then feel like disconnected, or they feel like constantly on the go. It's a constant, I've got to do this, got to do that, got to do this, and again, I speak from experience. That's how I used to be. Now I sit there and I'm thinking, oh my God, how did I even manage like living my life like that? Because I couldn't do that, right? Journaling is so important. First of all, and this comes from a therapy point of view as well, holding a pen or a pencil and writing, you're already connecting, which is huge. And whenever we're working with, even with children, like from a young age. What do they get them to do? How to hold a pencil,
Pen.
your grip. You're giving sensory feedback. You're getting sensory feedback through my hands, right? My fingers are writing. Oh, there's movement in my, my wrist. And so that kind of helps you to get out of your head into your body. Just that step of sitting down to even write. So that is connecting your whole mind and body together. Journaling allows you to really just express it's your private book. You can write whatever you want. You can express yourself in however you want. Sometimes there's so much like journal this way, journal that way. And when people say to me, what's the best way to journal? I'm like, just open the page and write. Simple.
It's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. It's so interesting you say that, because as I've been doing more research around journaling, because if you'd asked me, say, 4 years ago, right, son, or start journaling, I'd be like, you're having a laugh, aren't you? Me, sit down and write. But the more I was researching about journaling, there are different ways to journal. So there's the writing, there's the drawing, there's the doodling. I'm a vocal journal person. So, dearest Danny or Neo and Ree, they're kind of my journaling listening people. Yeah, definitely, all of them.
Yeah.
Neo, you'll never believe what happened today. Some people use voice notes,
Yeah.
to get it out of, So, like you said, when somebody says, "What's the best way of journaling?" It's you've got to find what's right for you, And for some, it is, pencil. Some it might be pen. Some it might be coloring crayons. Whatever it is, but it is about finding the right way for you. But the important thing is to get it out of you. So if you saw my to-do list, you would laugh. You would kind of go, hell, Sonal, how are you planning to finish all of that? And I'm
Don't
actually,
worry. Don't worry.
no, every day, to be honest, depending on when I wake up and how I'm feeling, every day it will be one thing I'm going to do, or it might be three things I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I just will prioritize out of that list what I've got to do. Every evening, Danny and I spend time and we talk.
Amazing.
We
That is
just talk,
brilliant. Yeah.
and it can be about what's happened in the day. It could be about a movie that we think we should be watching and the reasons why, but we talk. And that's our way of, what's happened in the day or the week or the weekend. But it's about what's right for you, because you're so right. If it's all stored here and then it has no, and you don't give an outlet, when something does go wrong or doesn't happen the way you want it to, the outlet becomes your voice and your body reactions, and it can be very volcanic and it can be very toxic because it's not happened in a managed way. And that's kind of almost where the journaling factor comes in, isn't it? Because you're doing it in a managed way as opposed to an explosive way, which is what we
100%.
don't want.
And that's what I say, journaling is therapy. That's all it is. It is basically you're doing your own therapy through journaling. And some people require a bit of support. What do even if you say write what's in your head, but there's so much going on, so you just start them off with very simple points. My greatest one with everybody who knows me will be like, you're going to ask us how we're really doing. Yeah, I am. Because have you even asked yourself, hey Chin, how are you doing? Like, really, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Nobody does. We'll ask our friends, we'll ask our children, we'll ask, I'll be like, hey, Sonal, how are you doing? And we've had those conversations, haven't we?
Yeah.
But actually, how often do you say to yourself, as you towards yourself, hey, Sonal, how are you doing? Yeah, okay. That stuff happened. Really didn't like that because that really upset me. And I thought, felt devalued and stuff. But okay, so what came up after that? So you're already creating. Do you see what I mean? You're kind of, and then you're identifying those kind of patterns. And through journaling, it is really your own therapy. And I say to people, that's the best way to start. And everybody who works with me, anybody who's in my free groups, membership, whatever, I'm constantly battering on about journal.
And I
There'll
think
be days, like you said, there'll be days for me, I just have to vocalize it. I don't have to write it. I have to vocalize it. It depends what energy is in your body.
And it's interesting you said something earlier about the South Asian community and women in particular. We are brought up with so many expectations of how we should be, what we should do, stay in the kitchen, cook the rotli, you know, don't be ambitious, the man is the powerhouse, you must be, subservient, um, fast on this day, don't cut your hair on this day,
Don't
don't
cut
cut your
your
nails
nails
on that day, don't wash your hair on this day,
on.
and it's almost like, whoa, hold on, so what am I allowed to do? And
Who am
you
I?
always, am I? And it's almost like you need to get that out of your system
Mm,
and actually allow yourself to be the real you. And I remember when I was young and I got into so much trouble, Chintal, honestly, so much trouble, because I always went, hold on. In the Ramayana, it says that Ram went to the jungle and survived on what he found. And he
yeah,
also went deer hunting for
yeah,
Sita. Mm. What did he eat then? Did he eat
yeah,
leaves and berries? Because it
yeah,
says on what he found. It doesn't say, and he survived on rotli and shat that Sita made in the evening, right?
yeah.
And honestly, this whole thing about getting these things, because we've been so almost military style trained, haven't we? Into how we should be as Asian women. And I feel it's so
We've been
important that,
programmed. That's all it is. We've all been programmed. You should do things this way, this way. And it's interesting you say that because my 9-year-old, she's the same. She'll question things. And actually, it's allowing them the freedom and the space to question it because they're not always wrong.
no,
Just because we're adults doesn't mean that our children are wrong. Because
yeah.
remember, they are the new generation and they will, and they have every right to. It's just because we didn't, because we got told, don't ask questions, just go and do what we've told you to do. Doesn't work with them. If
You
you
know,
expect,
it's so interesting, Chinto. I was talking to a parent just the other day, and they have a child who's autistic, and they were saying it's amazing how having a child who's autistic has made them change their behavior,
yeah,
because the child is saying, well, why are you saying it to me in that roundabout way?
yeah,
What do you want me to eat? What are you making today? And almost that parent has now had to change their behavior and actually be more direct, because we've been grown up to say, "Hi, Chintal. So, how are you today? How was your weekend?
yeah,
Um, I wonder if you have any time to maybe possibly help me a little, And we don't just go, "Hey,
yeah,
Chintal, I need your help."
yeah, exactly. And you know what? That's one thing I did also learn from Nishio is very much like keep it simple. Like we
Hmm.
overcomplicate lives, and that's the biggest thing for me was how can I now simplify my life?
Yeah,
How can I keep it simple? Because trust me, all this overcomplicated stuff, it was energetically draining. On top of that, you're dealing with a health condition. On top of that, a child who has needs, and you're thinking, God, where does it give? And it made you realize that, yeah, why do we complicate things? It is as
yeah,
simple as, okay, I'm making this with this. What are you
yeah,
gonna have? And it's as simple as, yeah, I'm gonna have that. And they've got a lot to teach you. And I see our children as our teachers. And
yeah.
if we get triggered by our children, then it is obviously showing us things that we need to work on and heal.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because the more and more I'm talking to, parents and even adults who themselves have neurodiverse conditions, I'm realizing that we have so much to learn from them, and
Mm,
how creative they are, and how actually they are their own success factors because of who they are and
yeah,
how they behave, and and their makeup, their internal DNA. And
yeah,
if we allow them space to grow as they are, God, they can be so successful. And it's almost like some parents who are like, oh, door closed, don't tell anyone, we'll deal with this ourselves, are really not, giving the child the opportunities that they have to be such awesome adults as they grow. Would you agree or would you
Oh,
disagree?
100%. No, 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 100%. And it's interesting you say that because obviously Nishal's now in year 11. And he actually, one of the days he came home and he said, you know what? He goes, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I said, okay, so what are you grateful for? He goes, you guys don't push me to go and become a doctor. I said, oh, no, 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 no. None of that. I was like, why did you say that? He goes, because there's some students at school, they don't want to do this. and they're being forced by their parents that they have to go and do a degree and become a doctor, but they don't want to be a doctor. He goes, why can't the parents just look at what they want to do and allow them to do what they want to do? And I'm like, well, you're not wrong there. But I said, you know what? I said, the parents probably don't know any different themselves. And I said, what people don't know is what they don't know, right? But I said to him, I said, how does it make you feel that actually you get a choice? He goes, at least I know that I'm not forced to be doing something I don't want to do. And I said, well, that's end of the day, that's what it is. Focus on what strengths you have, and build on that. So yeah, I totally resonate with that. I agree.
And tell me, Chintal, are you as excited as I am about my journals?
Yes. Yes. When I saw them, when you sent it to me, I was like, oh, and I loved it. And actually, you know what? The first thing Nishil said, he goes, it's easy to follow. It's simple. So, it's that simple. It's the questions asked are very easy to understand. It's not going round and round and round and round in circles. It is very easy. And even when I looked at it, I was like, do you know what? This will be great for me as well, that I'd like to use it on a daily basis, because do you know what? It's broken down in such a way that actually if one day I don't want to write, I can just sit there, color and doodle. I do that. I do a lot of doodling. I do a lot of coloring. I do what feels right for me in that moment and what my energy is saying. So that those journals that you created are absolutely amazing. And you know what? I just think it's so easy for people to follow. There's no jargon in there.
Mm. And that was very important when I was, creating these and working with the focus group, because we have to remember that life is full of jargon, right? Everywhere you go, everywhere you go. But if you really want to help people, I think it's about simplifying, making it easy, and always it kind of links with my storytelling work that I do. The journey that it takes you on in the questions, because the important thing that I don't think we do enough of, but I'm sure you do through your healing work, is understanding the triggers that make us behave in a certain way, but also then what does that emotion look like that comes
Yeah.
out of it?
Yeah.
Frustrated, angry, sad, happy, whatever it may be. And we don't actually stop for a moment and just go, whoa, the way Chintal spoke, that really didn't, like, that triggered me, and it
Yeah.
really made
Why
me
did it
think.
trigger you? What
Yes.
is it that why did it trigger you? It's acknowledging it first, and why, and then it's having that choice to kind of move on from it, or you just hold on. And this is where so many people hold on to those kind of emotions that are not serving them. But what they do is they kind of push it in, lock it away, thinking it's gone, out of mind, out of sight. But actually, it's your subconscious that's holding it.
No, exactly. And that a big part of all of this for me is then letting go,
Yeah.
because we're not really taught to let go.
Yeah.
And because we don't let go, like you said, it stays within us. Subconsciously, it's there, and then one day it erupts. And when it does erupt, it's usually not in a very, it's quite an ugly way, as opposed to a really nice way.
Yeah.
So, Chintal, I've got a few random questions I'm going to ask you, because I always like
Oh,
to ask these, so people can get to know you a little better.
one.
So, here is the first one. What is your favorite animal? And tell me why.
A lion.
Oh, and why?
Um, it's my star sign, but also, like I just find that kind of fire and passion in a lion when they want to go and do something. And I feel like I've always, for me personally, in my life as well, I've always had that lion and lioness kind of energy in me to kind of, things have knocked you back and knocked you down. How do we get up and how do we move on? If challenges face you, how do we navigate through those challenges? So yeah, I love that kind of energy. Obviously, you've got the female you've got the lioness and you've got the lion. So I'm always about balancing those energies as well. But that's where kind of like it comes to me from. Yeah.
Love it. And then, second one, if there was one thing that you could do to change the world to be a better place, what would that be?
Heal.
I'm not surprised that you said that. And you know what came to mind was the song "Heal the
For the
World."
world.
came to my mind straight away as you said that, and I kind of thought you were going to say that because I know that's a big part about you,
Yeah.
and it's not just about, a few women. You actually want to help as many women as possible
Yeah.
heal, because we don't actually give ourselves, time to do it, and
No.
often we don't feel that we are
Need
allowed to,
it. Yeah.
right?
A-
Which is
And to
where
be
it's so
honest,
important.
at the moment, I work with women. Obviously, forward going plans for the future is a lot bigger than that. But the reason why at the moment for women as well is it's also gone right towards my own personal journey. When I've healed myself, I've seen everything around me change. I've seen the ripple effect on the people around me, my children, my home, my relationships, and it's likewise the same with my clients. So as they're been on this journey with me, they've started to come around. They said, "Oh my God, this relationship that I was struggling with, everything seems to have just like worked out perfectly." And I said, "You've done the main work, which is working on you."
Yeah.
Um, and their partners or husbands are seeing the change in them. And now I actually am working with a couple of men as well, because they've seen the positive impact it's had on their wives. So for me, it's all about reciprocal effect, ripple effect. Everything. And for a woman to heal, you're not just healing yourself, you're healing the 7 generations of women behind you and the
Mm,
future generation of women. So when
absolutely.
you're doing it for your own children and the future generation, all of this stops with you.
Yep. No, I love that. Absolutely love that. And final question: who is your favorite superhero and why?
Oh my God, who's my favorite superhero? Oh, I don't think I've got a superhero.
Oh,
I've never
okay.
been into superheroes and stuff. Well, actually, no. I think the only thing I used to watch, which was superhero kind of stuff, was everything my son watches. All his Marvel fanatics and Spider-Man, all that kind of stuff. But no, I've never really been like a superhero person.
You do know that you could be your own superhero.
Yeah,
And I think for you, that's probably through your journey, you are your own superhero.
yeah.
And the reason why is not only have you gone through a journey of healing yourself, you're also on this journey healing others around you. So I think we can call you your own superhero.
Thank
You're welcome.
you. Get my cape
Chintal,
on now.
oh, you have it on all the time. You
Yeah.
never take it off. Never take it off. Oh, Chintal, it's been absolutely lovely having you on. And I know for those who've been watching now, and also for those who will be watching later, there's so much great information, some nuggets of tips and advice and help. And anyone who wants to reach Chintal, how do they get hold of you?
I'm on Facebook, but I mostly hang out on Instagram. And my Instagram details are at Chintal_Kakaya. And so, yeah, you'll find me there. Otherwise, you can get hold of me via my website as well, chintalkakaya.com.
Thank you so much. And if any of you want to get in touch with Chintal via me, just reach
Yeah.
out and I'll direct you and send you the details. Chintal, thank you so much for your time today. I'm just going to retire you to the waiting room, say my goodbyes, and then we'll have a little chat. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all so much. Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you for all of those who are watching now. And for those of you who may be watching later, please just put hashtag replay. And any questions that you have, either for me or for Chintal, then please do just write them in the comments or send them directly to me. And I can ask Chintal or I can ask my next speaker, who will be tomorrow. So thank you again. And thank you for everyone who's been buying the journals. And I really do hope that they are supporting you or supporting your child in their journey of one day at a time and becoming a better person. And if you do have any feedback, just send it to me at sonal@sonaldave.com. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow when I have my next interview.